Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So right now we're working on the GX470, just resolving oil leaks and everything that I got even after I changed all the oil seals. So on today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the oil pan, reseal the lower oil pan, and just clean out all the sludge that we had in this engine when we did the timing belt service and all the other seals a couple months back. So stay tuned. So if you saw my last video, I was trying to do the VVTi seal. I went ahead and changed that out, but now I'm under here just trying to clean up the rest of this mess. What happened was, with that leak coming from the cam seal or the VVTi seal, after about 3 or 4 months of driving this thing after my seal job, I got oil everywhere, just basically a slow seepage that was coming down, and it's been just building up here with all the dirt and everything. I've tried to clean most of it already when I did that seal up top, but underneath you can still see all the residuals and everything. So today what I'm going to do is change out this oil pan. The oil pan is pretty straightforward on the GX470. Pretty much all the 10 millimeters we take around there, we're going to go ahead and pry it off because of the form in place gasket that's going to be holding it on. And then once we drop it, we got to scrape off, clean off all the old seal on both surfaces, and then reseal it with the form in place gasket. As you can see, I've got a rear main seal leak too, because you see all that residual oil sitting right there on the bell housing of the transmission. That's my next job underneath this vehicle, to drop the transmission right here, the transfer case, the axle and everything, get this all below here. Luckily I have a lift, this max jack right here, that makes the job much easier, but we're still gonna have to go ahead and drop this thing down by myself onto my cart over here so I can take this thing down and access the rear main seal. If this was a rear wheel drive one, it would be much easier, but I've got that transfer case over there to deal with. As far as oil leaks, I don't think my oil pan is really leaking that bad, just because I had all that sludge on my earlier videos when I did all that maintenance. I just want to make sure that we drop this thing, clean out the pickup tube and everything else inside this engine to make sure. I wanted to run 1 cycle of oil change before I did that sludge or drop this, so that's why I didn't do it last time. So now that we ran that synthetic through here for about 3,000 miles, any of the sludge or anything that might have settled at the bottom is a perfect time to take that out right now to just check what's at the bottom here. All right, I got it unbolted and popped off. Now the next problem is this axle right here is in the way, as well as a cross member back there. So there's really no easy way to wedge this thing out. I'm trying to figure out this thing. If I take this off, I assume there's going to be a rod that goes all the way into the diff. So even that part won't really work. So I'm trying to figure out an easy way to drop this without taking everything else out. Yeah, after dicking around with it, I was able to figure out how to do it. You kind of got to twist it all the way around just because of the pickup line not clearing this spot right here. But you can see all that damn sludge that was in my engine. Look at that. That's all freaking basically varnish right there from the oil. So what I'm gonna do is just clean out all that sludge right now with some super clean, and then clean up all these edges right around here, so that way I can get this thing all prepped up for the new form in place gasket. And then I gotta clean it on the vehicle side too, so that's gonna be a big pain in the ass over there too. So we'll go ahead and do that. There is a little plate on there that I'm gonna take apart too, so I can clean that while it's off the vehicle. Alright, we ended up scrubbing most of this thing off. The main thing is to get all the adhesive or the old seal off on the inside, because that's where you're going to be running your bead. You don't really run it on the outside too much. You're going to get a squeeze out most of the outside. So I pretty much cleaned that all up. I cleaned all the old varnish and all this crap inside the pan, so everything's pretty good now. I used some super clean just to get most of the oil out. Then I used acetone on all these edges just to get the last bit of adhesive off of it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and wipe it all down. I'm actually taking this outside, spray it down with some water after I coat it with another layer of super clean just to get all the grease off on the inside and the outside. And then I'm gonna go ahead and work on the underneath side. This is that piece of pan I took off. I started scraping some of the varnish off, as you can see. I'm gonna put this in my new vapor blaster that I made on one of my recent videos. I'm gonna see how much and how quick that vapor blaster is gonna clean off all this varnish right here. On the underside here, as you can see, it's pretty flat surface. You wanna go ahead and just remove as much of the sealant that's squeezed out onto the inside as you can on the outside, and then we're gonna go ahead and get a razor blade, because it's a nice flat machine surface. I'm gonna get a razor blade and scrape off as much as I can. It should come off pretty easily just because it's a flat surface, and then wipe it down with acetone. As we look inside the pickup tube, we can't take the pickup tube off because you actually have to take the upper pan down to get all the bolts, but you can see all the stuff that's in the strainer. I'm gonna go ahead and try to spray that down with some brake clean to clean and break some of that off into the drain pan, so that way it doesn't clog our actual line and get into the engine. Alright, was able to clean everything outside. You can see all that residual oil that we cleaned off with the acetone exposed all that old oil and sludge. Still kind of here, but it's good enough. That'll eventually just wear out with the oil that goes through here and the detergents. All the edges are as clean as they're gonna get. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this all down with acetone and alcohol before I put the form in place gasket. That piece over there that I put inside the vapor blaster, you can see that thing cleaned it up in about 2 or 3 minutes. Very fast and clean. You can see all those little edges, they're starting to flash rust, so I gotta get it back into there with some oil so it can soak it up and prevent all that corrosion, but got all that varnish off of this. Alright, I put in some elbow grease, got that thing super clean up there using some brake clean. I haven't cleaned it with acetone yet, but I'm gonna go ahead one last pass with acetone and alcohol before I put the cover back on. The one thing I want to do before I do anything with the actual sealant, I want to test fit, make sure I know how to get this thing in without touching anything first. And then once I do that and figure out a way to get around everything without smearing the form in place gasket around, I'll go ahead and do the form in place gasket. But pretty much everything's spick and span, all the edges, scraped it with a razor blade, cleaned it off with the brake clean, and I'm gonna go ahead and clean it with acetone. Out here on the actual pan, I wiped it one last time before I do the alcohol and acetone with the brake clean right here. I just use regular brake clean. This is the best stuff to get all the adhesive and all the old forming place gasket off, just because it works really good. The only thing with it evaporates really fast, so you gotta soak it into a little paper towel or a little rag or something and then just scrub it down. But you want to make sure everything's nice and clean, nothing left on the surface as far as oil or anything. This is the form in place gasket right here, the Seal Packing 103. You get this from your local Toyota or Lexus dealer for about 15 to 20 bucks. You can also order it on Amazon or when you're ordering parts and stuff from Toyota. Alright, I got that bead onto there. Looks a little bit messy, but once it goes onto the thing and squeezes, we should be good as far as the seal goes. You want to make sure you get all the straight lines and you get a good layer there, so that way when it squeezes down, it squeezes out and seals nice and tight. So we'll go ahead and wiggle this thing into there. I already practiced getting it in. Hopefully I don't smear this stuff all over the transfer case or any of the subframe. Alright, we got everything bolted up. We pretty much hand tighten everything because all you need is about 11 foot-pounds on these 10mm bolts. You want to over tighten it and happen to break it or risk breaking it. So pretty much got it all around, got a nice squeeze out of it to guarantee, make sure there's a seal. I checked all the edges all the way around this thing to make sure, and everything looked good. When I was putting it in, I was making the mistake of turning the pan the wrong direction. So once you gotta put it in backwards, right, to clear the pickup tube, and then you gotta turn the flat end or the skinny end this side. I was trying to turn it on this side and it wasn't going anywhere, so when I decided to pull it back out and turn it that way in the video, if you could see it, I was able to get it through there, but it did get a little bit of the sealant here and along the transmission bell housing, but we pretty much cleaned that up before it dried too much. But overall, I think everything is sealed, everything is tightened down, hand tightened to about 10 to 11 foot-pounds, and we're pretty much clean and good here. Hey guys, thanks for joining me all the way to the end of this video on getting that oil pan down and getting it all sealed up. Luckily, we didn't have to take anything apart other than a pan. If you work it around and know the trick to get it out, it comes out pretty easily and goes back in pretty easily if you pay attention and do a couple of dry test runs before you actually seal it. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to your channel, go ahead and subscribe to your channel. Turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I do one of these DIY videos. Remember guys, for all these different DIY projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.